I read someplace, I can't remember where, that kids are born with some 400 different personality traits, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, they're there. And I've seen that with me and my brother, my niece and nephew. They're different. They're different. Same upbringing, different personalities, different stuff. Okay, so when I think about my obsessive compulsive disorder, which, as I remember, it started like manifesting, the ritual started when I was 7. You know, I can't prove that it was because of anything that my parents did. It might just be in my DNA. I mean, I don't know. But I do like to speculate. It's fun to speculate, right? And I remember being about 5 years old. I might have been older, I'm not sure. But I think I was about 5. And I remember being in the back of my parents' Eldorado. My mom was driving. And I was in between the seats, peeking my head through. And I asked my mom about what happens when you die. Like, do you go to heaven? And she says, no, there is no heaven. We were agnostic. We weren't atheists. But, she said, the hair's bugging me. She said that there is no heaven. And I said, oh, okay, so after you die, you're just dead, then. So then I go, well, but you dream, right? So you don't know you're dead. And she says, no, your brain just shuts off. You don't, there's no activity. You're just gone. Okay, well, I didn't like to hear that. Now, I didn't say anything back. I didn't start crying or anything. But what I do know is that at some point in my life, I became, like I said, I remember it being about 7 years old. So the rituals didn't start right after she said this, I don't think. I don't know the dates. But I remember at one point I became terrified of dying. Terrified. Because I mean, what kid would? And what I think is funny too is, you'll let me believe in Santa Claus, but you don't let me believe in God. That's pretty fucked up, right? So I remember I was so terrified of dying, and I've heard the phrase being scared to death. And people, I'd heard about someone having a heart attack, maybe being startled and dying, something like this. So I remember I had a beautiful, my parents had a 5-bedroom house. I had a beautiful, as far as money goes, we had money, okay? And I had all these shelves with my toys on them. They were typically like maybe little glass animals, little trinkets, okay? And I was so afraid one of them was going to fall off in the night and scare me. So I wanted to make sure that those items were far enough away from the shelf. They had to be a hand's width away from the shelf, okay? So it started like that. And I would have to count to 7 to make sure, because the counting would help me remember when I would get in bed. I'd go, well, you counted to 7, so you did it, right? Well, that just escalated into, now I'm counting to 7 times, and I have to hold my hand around each object. Now it's got nothing even to do with the fear of death, which, like I said, I don't know how OCD started. I might have just been in my DNA. But pretty soon I'm counting to 7 times around each item. Then I'm afraid of like ghosts and spirits and stuff. So like when I would shut the light switch off, I would make sure that sucker was off. And I'd count to 7 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, and I'd do it as fast as I could, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I got to thinking there were spiders or monsters under the bed, the monster could, so I'd have to look under the bed 7 times, blah, 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 blah. Then setting my alarm as I got older. And this went on and on and on. Well into adulthood, okay? Yeah, it just in different ways. Now, thank God I didn't need to check the stove before leaving the house. My domain was my bedroom. And the reason with the light switch was I was afraid a ghost was going to come in, flip on the switch, and which the disorder makes no sense. The thing is, it doesn't even make any sense. I saw an Oprah episode of this man. He planted a bunch of tulips. Then he had to go back out, dig up all the bulbs to make sure his daughter wasn't in there. Well, I mean, does that make any sense? Of course not. Of course not. Like my friends would go, why don't you make a checklist? Because I don't trust the checklist. Okay? I'll do a checklist and I'll get there and go, wait, did I check that off but I didn't really check it? I would get to work like half an hour early because I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to finish my rituals in my car. Because I had to make sure the radio's off. I got to make sure the lights are off. 1, 2, and by then I kind of upgraded. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it was 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's off. It's off. It's off. It's off. It's off. It's off. It's just insanity, And for so many years I would get irritated when someone would go, "Oh, I'm so OCD," because they're neat and tidy. OCD is about counting and rituals, okay? But I just had to let it go. It's just an expression people use. And then I did later learn that there is obsessive compulsive personality, but it allegedly doesn't bring out anxiety, whereas obsessive compulsive disorder brings about tremendous anxiety. So I've been helped greatly with fluoxetine. I do have a routine that I go through the house and check everything. There is one kind of a repetitive thing that I do with the stove. But I'll show you that one day. I'd have to have someone using the camera to follow me and show me, because I had to kind of use my own behavioral cognitive therapy thing, because I don't want to pay for a therapist. I just don't. I mean, I never do the work. Whenever I pay for therapy, or my parents would pay for therapy, I never do the work for it. I just ends up wasting my money, their money, the bread. So I decided do I want to let this OCD completely take over my whole fucking life? Like, no. And I told myself once, I said, wouldn't it be better to lose something? Like, I would always be checking my wallet. Wouldn't it be better to lose your driver's license and go replace it rather than to check it 20 times a day? I mean, I kind of helped myself, and the fluoxetine was generic Prozac. That did help. Okay, but there is a routine I go through when I leave the house, because I still have that uncomfortable feeling, which I'll probably always have. I don't think it'll ever be cured, but it can be managed. Thank goodness.